Hello, everybody. This is a bit of an added lesson that I saw was needed for the unit on the Enlightenment and Revolution. One of the areas in your notes that I skipped over, kind of on purpose, didn't really want to, was the idea of the political spectrum. And I noticed after looking over your notes that a lot of you were just thinking that the social contract was the political spectrum, and that is not the case. The social contract is impacted by the political spectrum, most definitely, but it is not the political spectrum. The political spectrum is something that actually is started simple and now is incredibly convoluted and confusing depending on who you talk to, where you're looking. Like, for instance, just go really quick. That's just a Google search of political spectrum. They don't agree with each other. Many of them are incredibly contradictory of each other. Um, I highly suggest not doing this, not Googling political spectrum to get an idea of what it is. You'll just kind of go crazy in your mind a bit. Um, but there is an origin to it, and that's what this lesson is going to be on today is, okay, I'm going to teach you what the basic political spectrum is, what all those other ones that you just saw are pretty much based off of, even though it's people's opinions in most cases, the way they want to see or view the world. So what I'm going to hope to do today is hopefully, especially if you're into all that stuff you like, politics, left versus right type stuff, hopefully what this kind of added lesson here will help you out with that. Although I am making this required, and the idea of that, I hope you get the right notes into your note packet for this, and just get the grade for it as well. So that being said, let me get this up here. Just a bit of a review. I can find it. Okay. So, by the way, I'm just putting this in Microsoft Paint. I am not. I'm sure there's some software out there that I could do this a lot better on, but this is the best I got, and I apologize, everybody, but I'll do the best I can here. So, in the PowerPoint, in the lesson on the Enlightenment, I showed you guys the social contract and explained a bunch of things about it, where simply put, the social contract is just this idea that if you put it in a line, on this side you have complete individual freedom, free agency, however you want to say that, can just complete. On this side, complete control of the government. And the purpose of the government is to provide some safety. We can't trust all of our choices. What if I want to go kill someone? That's my choice. Well, maybe it'd be nice if there's an entity to stop me from that, provide a sense of punishment to make me think, I don't want to be punished for that. Extreme example, I used that before, but again, but we also know that without a sense of personal choice, you can't really be happy. So what's the balance? And that's the social contract. Social contract line is that little thing right there. The further it goes this way, the more choices we have in life, represented by the blue. The further it goes this way, the less choices we have in life, represented by the red. Now, the purpose of that is hopefully to provide safety. That's not always the case, but that's the purpose of it. And that's the social contract. How do we balance this idea of safety and choice in order to have a society where everybody is as happy as possible? And that's the purpose of the social contract. Now, the political spectrum, I should have this. Oh, I don't have the right one up. Just a second here. Political spectrum is a little bit different. Well, not a little bit, a lot different. Yes, it's a line, but it's just, different. You treat it differently. Now, enlarge this. This is what you want to write into your notes, basically that line. But you do need to also get notes on the idea of what those things mean. If you are at all familiar with modern day politics and this idea of right versus left, conservative versus liberal, in a way, kind of get that out of your mind, please. And what I'm going to be talking about is what leads into that. But the caveat I need to put in here is the idea that what I explain as conservative right now is not what a political conservative today necessarily would describe themselves at. And what I'm going to tell you right now is not necessarily what a political today was what a political liberal would describe themselves as. But this is where they get the words from. So with that being said, just a little bit of an explanation here. First off, where do we get this idea of right versus left? It's actually very simple historically, and it goes back to the French Revolution and the Enlightenment. Simply put, I'll bring this up here. Just Googled this picture, but it's a good picture. If you can't really read that, I can't really enlarge it that well, I apologize, but this is the National Assembly deciding on how to make the new constitution for France during the beginning of the French Revolution. On one side, you have people that are generalistically agree with each other. They want a more revolutionary, radical style of government. Whereas on this side, you have a group of people that don't want that as much. They're more of your royalist moderates. Right there it says pro-monarchist conservatives. Yeah, it's an alright term. The basic idea is the people sitting on the king's left are people that want to have a brand new government and don't want to include the king in it. The people sitting on the king's right are the people that are like, we don't want too much change too fast. In fact, a lot of them like the way things were. But they generalistically agree with each other. And that's what we do. We usually sit with people, we're around people that we agree with. We're more comfortable that way. So of course people are going to sit next to people that they agree with more. Hence, tons of people agree with each other sit on the right side of the king. Tons of people that agree with each other sit on the left side of the king. And that's where we get this term left versus right. People on the left side of this will generalistically agree with each other. They'll be the ones talking with each other. People on the right will generalistically agree with each other. Not in everything, but more so than someone who would be on the other side. Like a rightist would definitely not want to be around as much of a leftist when it comes to just saying I agree with him or I don't agree with, or no, when I agree with him, I definitely don't agree with him is what they'd be saying there. Hopefully this is making sense at the moment. Now, the terms. This is one of the most important parts of this lesson is what do these terms really mean? I'm going to start on the left side first because I've already explained a few of those terms in the lesson. First off, the term liberal. In the Enlightenment, the term liberal generally means that if you are open to a sense of change, you are open to try new things. And remember, Voltaire especially was the guy that was like, hey, you need to have this openness to you to try these new ideas to see if they're even going to work or not. So, now, if you go further down the left, though, you get to the word radical. Radical is a term that refers to extreme change. Extreme change. And then if you go even further down the line, revolutionary is the idea that you're willing to you want that change, not just the idea that you're thinking about it and you want it, you act on it. You do stuff about it. You try to convince people. You try to get that change enacted in your society. And if you're willing to pick up a gun and shoot people over it, if you're willing to enact violence over it and hurt people over the idea that you want this, then you're as far left as you can possibly get, which is called a militant revolutionary. So, anyways, now to the right side, same idea. The further you move from the center point, you get to conservative. Conservative originally means just someone who likes, you know what, the way things are right now are good. Why change? Why fix it if it ain't broke? Type of mentality. We're doing all right. There's no need to rock the boat type thing. Now, going further down the line to traditionalists. Traditionalists are people that are like, yeah, things right now seem all right, but it'd be a lot better if we went back to the way things were way back when. This is, I like to use the example of, when you talk to grandpa and grandma, it's like, back in my day. And by the way, the older we get like that. I've noticed myself, I do that a lot in class. Well, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, the older you get, usually the more traditionalist you get. So, and then further down to the right-hand side, you get to the term reactionary. It means that you react against change, meaning that when someone like who is radical or liberal is saying, or in revolutionary is saying, we need this stuff, you're like, no, I don't want that. You become a reactionary on that issue, at least, if you're like, no, and I'm going to work against it. And if you're so pent up about it, just boiling over on the idea that you hate that change and you're willing to shoot people over it and things like that, then you're a militant reactionary. Sorry, that's cut off a little bit, but that says militant reactionary. So those are your basic terms and how they go along with each other. Now, the problem in modern day politics is people say, well, you're either your right or your left, and that is just so not true, especially if you look at the basic political spectrum here. And this is where I'm going to get into, draw on this a little bit. So, just a little bit of an example. Just take a few issues. Let's say this political spectrum is representing a person. Not me, but just a random person. And this person is thinking about, say, the issue of gun control or gun rights. One I know a lot of people in Utah are very much into, especially in Lehi. So, what is normal today? Well, normal today is the idea that you have the right to bear arms, that you have the right to own a firearm for the matter of personal defense and, if need be, protection of your individual rights against a totalitarian style government. That's the idea. That's what's considered normal for guns. So if that is your belief, like, let's say, and again, if this is a fictitious person we're looking at here, then, the idea of gun rights is right there. Just that blue dot right now is representing gun rights. In fact, let me make these dots bigger so that we get the idea. Sorry, that was taking a little bit. Haha, okay. So, you're there. But then, the same person who thinks that way about guns is like, you know what? I really don't like the way school is run. You know what? I think we should just have school 2 times a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's it. That is a very radical idea today to change school like that, because the normal is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. type thing. That's the norm for education. So if you have this radical idea that, we don't need that anymore, just Tuesdays and Thursdays and that's all we need, that's a radical idea. So when it comes to the idea of education, you have this radical idea on it. That's the same like what I'm trying to show you is this is the same person. This person believes in a radical idea with education, but believes that the way we think about, say, gun rights right now is the same. So with one issue, they're thinking more on what would be on the right side, conservative, and on another issue is thinking to be on the left side, more radical. In this idea of education, again, this is an example. There could be, I wouldn't doubt there are people that think this way. So at least one person out there in the 340 million Americans there are. But hope that's helping you out there. This person isn't just on the right or the left. Depends on the issue at hand. Now, let's say we put a bunch of other issues up there. I'm just gonna change the color a little bit and just say I'm not going to use examples of issues, but just each dot equals an issue. Like another issue, they're right there. Another issue, they're right there. Some issues, they're there. On a bunch of them, this person is down here thinking we got to go back to certain ways. And all of a sudden, with all of these different hot button issues out there, we're kind of getting the idea of just kind of the way this person leans. So when you hear terms like this person is right leaning or this person is left leaning, that's what it means. Like when it comes down to it, overall, this person is a right-leaning person, meaning they're more conservative and traditionalist than anything else. Although there are some things where they are a bit on the not radical, on the left side. It depends on the issue. And I hope this is getting through to you guys at the moment, meaning that don't let people peg you in. It's always about the issue. Look at your morals and your values, what you believe to be right and wrong. And then you can make a decision on do you like things the way they are? Do you think that you need to go back to the way things used to be? Do you think something brand new would solve it? That's the idea here. So I'm going to undo all that in order to explain something else. Okay. So, is something always going to be radical? Is something always going to be conservative? Meaning, I just put up there the idea that, say, gun rights is would be considered on this political spectrum a conservative thing. Is that always the case? Well, no. For instance, if we talk about gun rights, just to stick on that one, 300 years ago, in the colonies, the 13 colonies, that is not the case. The king wanted to take that away, or I shouldn't say take that away, didn't want to allow the colonists to really have that in the first place. He felt like he should have the ability to take away people's guns, that they truly did not have a right to it, to them. So back in the 1700s, if you believe that you have the right to bear arms and you believe that you should have that for your personal defense, and if need be to go against a totalitarian style government, you're up there. But that's in the 1700s. Today, you're down there, if you believe that exact same way. And the point I'm trying to make here is that things that used to be revolutionary, things that used to be radical, especially ideas from the Enlightenment, if they're accepted and put into practice and work, become conservative and traditional over time. They become the way things are. I really hope that makes sense. I will use one more example just to kind of hit that one home. George Washington, according to the spectrum we have here, back in the year 1776, well, George Washington, militant revolutionary in the year 1776. He led armies. He killed people over these ideas and creating this new, better world, place of freedom. Okay. But that's in the 1700s. If George Washington were resurrected today, or come back to life, reincarnated, whatever it is, transported through time, but he shows up today in the year 2020, most definitely George Washington would be right here, because the values that he fought for have become ingrained, and now in many cases we've moved away from them, moved away from what he established as conservative and traditional. And you could easily wonder, would he be right there, or would he actually be right there? I'm not going to debate that right now, but it's something for you guys to think about. Maybe you could talk about it with your families if you'd like. So that's that and how the political spectrum works. Now, how does the political spectrum size up with the social contract? How do they affect each other? This is the last thing we're going to go over in this lesson. Okay, so just drew this one up and do the best I can and just explain this. So we have the political spectrum there. Dang it, I hope you guys can see this all right. I'm noticing that the writing's a little bit small there. We have the political spectrum on the top and the social contract on the bottom. So how do they affect each other? Well, let's use the idea of gun rights in the first place. So if you believe that, let's take the other side of this. Let's say you're someone who believes that we should take away guns today. They're too dangerous. We can't trust people with firearms, and we would be safer if we got rid of them. And I know a lot of you are not agreeing with that one right now, but just bear with me. This is for the example here. So if you think that way, then you're way up here. Let's get this. What color am I on? Okay, yeah, you're way up here. And the idea that's a rat. If you think that way, wrong. Did I have the right button there? Sorry, guys. I apologize. There we go. Just want a solid dot. Okay, you're up there. If you think that way, you're way up there when it comes to gun control. Now, if you think that way, and then you look down at the social contract, what essentially are you saying? You're saying that, I think that the government should take away my choice to have a gun because I feel safer that way. So essentially, and hopefully I'm doing this right, you're wanting the social contract to be moved that way. You want those personal freedoms to be taken away and give more control to the government, essentially taking that slider and moving it ever so much this way. Is that making sense? I hope it is. And you can do that with every issue. I just use that one because, again, I'm pretty sure it's one that a lot of people are into here, especially like Lehi and Utah. Hopefully, since it's more on the personal side of things, I hope it's helping understand that. Stuff like that. So, but you could take these other ways. I could come up with an issue where, like, okay, I probably should have thought of this a little bit ahead of time. Something where you're thinking, you know what? Easy one. Speed limits. I don't want any more speed limits. Let's say I imagine there's some people that might be listening to this right now if you made it this far into the lesson where you're like, yeah, that'd be awesome. No speed limits. By the way, Montana, not today, but when I was growing up, traditionalist saying there, Montana didn't have a speed limit. They just didn't care. I actually remember driving to college there and it was like, And I started revving that engine up. My dad got pretty mad at me. It's because I was making things unsafe. All of a sudden I got the minivan going. I don't know if I want to admit how fast I got it going, but it wasn't against the rules. But it was fast where it was actually kind of scary in a minivan. It probably would have been safer if I was in a Corvette. But let's say you're someone that wants to get rid of speed limits. In that case, then you're someone who is like, hey, let me back to this, what I'm doing here. It's like, I want speed limits. I want this radical idea of no more speed limits. I can go as fast as I want. No such thing as a speeding ticket anymore. That's just stupid. Well, you're up there. I mean, again, if you're thinking that way, you're way up here. That green dot is representing the idea of speed limits. That's a radical idea, and if you take that away, well, what are you doing down here? You're moving. Again, just to put the shape in there to prove the point. You're moving things that way. Yes, you're giving yourself more personal freedom, but you also have to wonder at what cost. Will everybody be responsible enough with no speed limits to where we'd still be safe on the roads? Well, we don't know because we've never done it before. We don't have that data. But enough people are scared of that to where most people are like, no, we should have speed limits. Maybe we can argue about the speed limit going between like 65 miles per hour versus 80 miles per hour, where we're at. But to get rid of it completely, probably, most people will be like, we don't want to go that way. That's too radical for us. Anyways, hopefully this all made sense to you here. I could put up more examples, yes, but between those two, I hopefully showed this to you that, well, I guess I just showed you examples that were on the radical side. I could put up examples that were also down here. Maybe a traditionalist doesn't like certain freedoms that we have today that we used to not have, and they think we should go back to that. Actually, let's go with speed limits. Let's say you're someone who thinks that, we need to go back to 50 miles per hour. And so, again, you'd be arguing to have that slider go this way if you're arguing that. So, anyways, that's how that works. One last plug, though, I need to put in there. Our founding fathers were worried about this slider going too far this way, getting up here. Hence the purpose of the Constitution of the United States, especially the Bill of Rights in it. Right to free speech. That should never be taken away. You're not an American anymore if you don't have that, even if it's speech you don't like or don't agree with. You have a right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. No one can take that away from you, not even the government. But the government does have the responsibility to protect everyone's right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So, anyways, like our slider throughout the United States has gone forward and backwards based off of the political spectrum and ideas that people have had, whether they're radical ideas, they want to go back to the way things were way back when, traditional stuff. But whatever those ideas do, that slider cannot go past that, or should not, I should say. And really, you could say that we're not American any longer if that social contract slider does go break past the Bill of Rights and break past the Constitution. anyways, just a little plug there in the idea of understanding the world around you, and hopefully helps you know and appreciate being a citizen of the country you're in. Now, I guess one last thing I do need to talk about, and this will be quick, and is the social contract the same for people in France or Russia or China? No, it isn't. Sorry, political spectrum. Meant political spectrum. No, it isn't. Is the social contract line kind of the same? Yes, but in other countries, most other countries, they don't have this, like a country like China, and that slider is all the way down here in a country like China. They're much more authoritarian and government control there. So anyways, just saying, at least they are right now, as in the year 2020. Who knows what the future brings? Anyways, that's this lesson on the political spectrum and how basically you can use it with the social contract, how they affect each other, but are two different things. I hope this was useful and explaining these things for you, and I will catch you. I will see everybody later.